Rev your engines and fasten your seatbelts. It's time for Thunder Talk with Dan Bailey, keeping you up to date on everything going on this season at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Thunder Talk is powered by Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Now, here's your host, Dan Bailey.
Hey, race fans, welcome to another edition of Thunder Talk on WINONA SPORTS NETWORK, 99.3 FM. I'm Dan Bailey. We have got a great program coming up this evening at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, and we hope that you will be there. Please accept this portion of Thunder Talk as an official invite to come join us at the Big Third Mile this evening for the Stars and Stripes 40, presented by Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, featuring the WABAM Dirt Kings Late Model Touring Series. We'll be chatting with the current point leader of the Touring Series in just a moment, but first, a quick reminder for all of you listening to the program via the Mississippi Thunder Speedway YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to click that bell so that you can be kept up to date with reminders when new content is added. All right, I kind of teased you a little bit, letting you know that we're going to be talking with the current point leader in the WABAM Dirt Kings Late Model Touring Series. Let me introduce to you Troy Springborn, driver of the number 81. Troy, first of all, welcome to Thunder Talk. Thanks for taking some time to chat with us this week.
No, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Currently sitting atop of the WABAM Dirt Kings Late Model Touring Series. It's been a short series thus far, struggled a little bit with weather, but here we are 3 events into the 2022 portion of the WABAM Dirt Kings Late Model Touring Series, and you sit atop the point standings with already 2 feature wins. Kind of a storybook start for the 2022 season for you and the 81 machine, isn't it?
Yeah, we had a really good start, which is a funny story. You know, we raced Dirt Kings on and off for a few years now, and we don't have any wins in that series, so to start out this year with 2 out of the first 3 was pretty good for us.
When you're able to jump into the series this year like this with such good early season success, does that make you feel like maybe you might follow this series a little more this year as opposed to years past?
Well, it ain't so much the point standings, it's just a time factor. So I started my own business about 7 years ago, and that's took off fairly well. So I'm trying to juggle my time between racing, following the series, and getting the work done. So it's been a challenge. I definitely want to try to follow the series again this year, but again, we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, that is kind of a struggle for all racers, right? Trying to find that comfortable balance between the sport that we love and, of course, real life, you know, which pays all your bills, right? In the past, you've been able to enjoy a lot of success locally, but you've also done the touring series thing, as it were. A lot of track championships, a whole bunch of race wins, 100 plus Wisconsin State track championships. Your plans for 2022 then? Do you feel like you may potentially be reining things in just a bit, or are you still going to try and schedule as much racing as you have in years past?
Well, again, as you state, you know, everybody gets busier and they try to make a living, but also the people that you have helping you grow up, and their kids and family grow up as well, so they have other things to do, you know, other than just going to the racetrack every week, so that's a challenge as well. But, I mean, we're going to locally race at Shawano. I don't want to say weekly because we probably missed the last 3 weeks there as well last year, but, you know, we're going to try to do the Dirt King stuff, the Shawano stuff, you know, the Dwayne Mader race in Menominee we went to last year. We're going to try to hit that. Funky Manor, stuff like that. So last year I bought an open motor to try to race some bigger shows, Eldora and stuff like that. That's kind of my goal before I quit racing, but we had a little bit of issues with that motor, and since then my priorities changed and I'm back to Wissota stuff, and I don't have open motor anymore. So we may pop in and out at some Wissota shows too, just depending on our time schedule.
The Shawano Late Model Track Champion in 2020, just one of your 12 track championships that you've had through your career. Is there a point through this lengthy career that you've had that you kind of point at as that was the highlight, that was a really high point in my career, and I'm really proud of that particular season or that particular event?
Well, not really one event. I mean, years ago when we started, we raced against, you know, Pete Parker's, Terry Amblink, MJ McBride, people like that. Here, one stretch that we had, we won 4 championships at Seymour in a row, and that was with Pete Parker and Terry Amblink and MJ McBride racing those 4. So that one kind of sticks out more than anything. Obviously, the first one at Shawano racing against those guys, because obviously in this area they're kind of legends. So to grow up watching those people and then racing against them and competing against them is something special.
You know, I like to ask this question to those drivers who have been in the sport for a while. You know, what are your thoughts on the current status of late model racing? Are you happy with where late models are as we move deeper into this 2022 season? Do you think there's room for improvement? Do you think everything's going fine? What are your thoughts on late models in general?
Well, as in everything in general, there's always room for improvements. What those improvements are, I don't know that. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows that, but obviously everybody knows racing's expensive, and it's not only late models, but every division is expensive. You know, competition drives competition, so it's going to drive the price. Something needs to be done eventually here to get some younger generations involved in that. But with the price of everything, you know, it's going to be pretty tough to do that.
You know, you mentioned trying to get the younger generation involved in our sport, in dirt track racing. What was it that got you involved? You know, when you were first getting started, what was it that made you think, hey, you know what, I want to give this a try. I want to give this a shot.
You know, I don't really know what gave us that first thought, but we used to ride our bikes down to the Speedway, down to Shawano Speedway here, and we'd watch all the people, you know, come through the pits. Back when Bobby Bennett used to race and come in with, you know, older street stock looking cars, what I'll call them now, but, you know, they were the late model division back then, and they caught our attention. It was exciting, and that's where we met every Saturday night, so that's kind of how we got involved in it.
Was your career the sort of career where once you got started, everything just kind of clicked for you, or did you struggle at first to really figure this game out?
We started out in the street stock division, and actually we started out with an old enduro car at a county fair that we raced in an enduro, and one of the guys came up to us. We had some issues in that enduro with our gas tank shifting and pinching the gas line off, so we didn't get to compete in that many laps. But he said, you know, why don't you bring this thing down to Seymour and race it in the street stock? And so that's kind of where we got our start at. So we dragged it to Seymour and raced there, and, you know, the guy told us we'll never compete with the upper guys, so you kind of went in with that mentality of just making some laps and getting used to it. But as we got going, we got a little bit competitive, and the more competitive you got, the more competitive you wanted to get. And it just kept snowballing.
Snowballing for sure. Looking at your website, MTSSpringborn.com, shows us how well your career has gone through the years with all the championships and the race wins, etc. Tonight, you roll into Mississippi Thunder Speedway with the Dirt Kings Tour. Your thoughts, first of all, on Mississippi Thunder Speedway?
Man, I really like the track. I really like the people, the personnel over there. I think they do a great job. The track prep is always, you know, top notch. It's a great track. I tell everybody, you know, you got to get over there and race there. The only downside for us is it's a 4-hour ride over there. But I always tell everybody, you know, that'd be my favorite track if it was about 3.5 hours closer. But they definitely do have a top-notch facility there.
You know, last year when Dirt Kings were at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, I kind of roamed through the pits and talked with some of the drivers that we don't get to see on a regular basis. You know, those of you who are quote-unquote from the east side of of Wisconsin. What are your thoughts on the differences? Are there major differences between tracks and racing surfaces that you compete on, you know, over in your home base around Shawano as opposed to those over here on the west side of Wisconsin?
Yeah, you know, our tracks are sandy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's really not has traction in it. Like Mississippi Thunder, even though it gets a little bit slick, it always seems like there's some traction there. And the banking, you know, there is unbelievable, plus the width of the track, too. So, you know, we're used to racing on a narrow, I think our banking's like 10 degrees or something like that. So it's not nearly banked like what Mississippi Thunder is or a Cedar Lake or something like that. Plus we got the big half mile. And it's funny, I was just reading an article before we were talking here that Mississippi Thunder was a half mile, and I'm like, man, that's got to be a misprint because I don't think it's that big. And so I looked it up. Yeah, it's only a third mile. So I was thinking if that was a half mile, I was definitely missing something here because it definitely isn't as big as our track at home here.
No, it's not a half mile, but I have heard some drivers say that they feel like you kind of drive it like a half mile just because you're able to keep that momentum up with the banking.
You know, I don't want to disagree with that, but maybe like a Eldora or something like that I could probably agree with because it's kind of got the same configuration. But our track here at home has definitely got long straightaways and tighter corners than what that is. So our track here is totally different than what that track is over there. So not that that's a bad thing, it's just a different characteristics, and to me it drives a little bit different than our home track.
You had mentioned when we first started chatting that real life gets involved with trying to schedule your racing calendar. Let's focus just on tonight's program. What sort of results would make you feel like, well, that 4-hour drive over to Mississippi Thunder Speedway, you know, was worth it? Obviously you want to win, but if you don't get that win, what sort of night would send you home with a smile on your face?
Just a competitive race. I mean, we don't race against a lot of guys over there as much as, you know, some of our other competitors, you know, AJ Demo and Jimmy Mars and John Canta. John Canta helped me out years ago, and a couple years ago we ran second to John there. We had a really good race for probably 30 laps, which was awesome because John helped me a lot. I'm happy to see him win. I'd have rather won, but it was good to see him win and race with him as well. But I guess just to have a competitive night and run decently.
Well, we've talked about your career. We've talked about Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Let me ask you this question. What are your thoughts about what Jason Schultz is doing with the Dirt Kings Tour? You know, they're a couple of years into this program that they've put together. It seems like the drivers who follow the tour regularly enjoy it. It seems like the drivers who may not be regular tour drivers, but, you know, come to the local event when it gets to their track, they seem to enjoy it. What are your thoughts on the Dirt Kings Tour?
Well, I think Jason and Sandy are doing a good job. You know, we need something to revive our late models around here. You know, we used to race 4 nights a week here, and we're down to only 1 night a week, competing with another local track down by Milwaukee, being Plymouth. So what Jason's doing is a struggle because he's trying to schedule races that both competitors from Shawano and Plymouth can get to, and it makes it difficult for him. But it's a good mix of tracks that we have. You know, I hate to say it, but obviously with diesel fuel being over $5 a gallon now and travel and stuff like that, and, you know, like we talked about time, that's going to be a big factor as well for following for points and stuff like that.
Well, let's focus back on your program. You had also mentioned early that when it comes to scheduling, you try to keep in mind those folks who are either helping you at the shop or helping you in the pits. But you've also got a great group of supporters who sponsor your racing endeavors year in and year out. Could you give us a list of sponsors for Springborn Racing for the 2022 season?
Sure. We have Scott's Construction, and they're out of Lake Delton. This year is our 25th year of having them as our major sponsor, so I think that's a pretty good achievement in itself, along with the racing and stuff like that, to have a sponsor hold on that long, which is awesome. We have Bolin Speedy Tees out of Shawano, Amsoil, Pro Power Racing Engines, that helps us out a little bit. Kirsten Excavating out of Clintonville, Wisconsin. Krieger Sewer and Septic, Redant Electric. Other than Lake Delton, the Scott's Construction, everybody else is kind of a local mix for us here around town. So, you know, it's great that they help us out and they want to keep doing this. I know everybody's getting tough on advertising budgets and stuff like that, but a lot of our people that help us out are in the racing, so that helps us out a little bit as well.
Troy, a great group of supporters for your number 81 as we come into tonight's Stars and Stripes 40 at Mississippi Thunder Speedway with the WABAM Dirt Kings Late Model Touring Series. Troy, I know it's a long ride over for you to race with us here tonight, but I know the race fans are looking forward to seeing your 81, and hopefully we'll be chatting some more down in Victory Lane at the end of that Stars and Stripes 40. Troy Springborn, current point leader in the 2022 WABAM Dirt Kings Late Model Touring Series standings. Thank you very much for joining us this week on Thunder Talk.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Hey, race fans, don't forget, come on over to Mississippi Thunder Speedway tonight. Stars and Stripes 40, presented by Arcadia Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, featuring the WABAM Dirt Kings Late Model Touring Series. Get started at 7 o'clock. All the admission information is available at the official Mississippi Thunder Speedway website, MississippiThunder.com.
That was Thunder Talk, keeping you up to date on everything going on at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Thunder Talk is powered by Arcadia Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram.
You ever notice that when you're on a fishing trip, you drive your boat all the way to the other side of the lake because you think that's where the best fishing is? And the people staying at the cabins on that side of the lake, well, they come and fish where your cabin is. You don't have to drive a long ways to catch the big fish. And at Arcadia Motors, you don't have to drive a long ways to get the best deal on a new Chrysler Dodge Jeep or Ram truck. The best deals are right in the bay next to your cabin. Take the short, scenic drive to Arcadia Motors. ArcadiaDodge.com.